issues.
Someone is putting it lightly, and I think that's political talk. There are big issues. There are real big issues. Just imagine this for one moment. There are over 12 million Nigerians who registered for this election who didn't pick up their PVCs. 12 million. Imagine what would have happened if these 12 million were able to collect their PVCs with ease. Imagine what would have happened if these 12 million, after collecting their PVCs, had confidence in voting. It's quite sad that we've got over 100 million eligible Nigerians above the age of 18, yet as these results are coming in, it shows that less than 35 million cast their votes out of over 100 million eligible to vote. So what we're having is, it's really not, while the legislators, when they are sworn in, will be talking about a legislative crisis or a lacuna, which we heard a lot in this 8th Republic. What we really have is a lacuna in PVC collection. It's unexplainable.
And even for those who collected, we are still yet to understand when accreditation and voting was separate. It's easier to say, well, perhaps the person went home and didn't want to vote. But not when you're already there. It's simultaneous. So you've already accredited, and then you can't explain what happened in between. Isn't it surprising?
Several things are surprising. One of the things that also surprises me is when INEC released the PVC numbers, the number of PVC holders, for instance, in Jigawa State currently is lower than what it was in 2015. Again, unexplainable. That is a statement of fact. The number of PVCs in Imo State, PVC holders in Imo State today, is lower than what it was in 2015. Unexplainable. Again, we need more notes and we need more explanation from INEC. Is it that those in Jigawa and Imo State requested for a transfer? Because it doesn't really add up, as we will say. You will expect PVC numbers to increase over 4 years. But what we have in these two states, Jigawa and Imo State, PVC collection, a total number of PVCs in those states lower than what it was 4 years ago. So there are lots of explanation that the electoral management body needs to do you
think what is missing is the audit? Because we have so many panelists telling us that after the elections, it's as though there's no audit or there's no real mapping of the figures to say, okay, what went wrong with the numbers, and then how can we do it differently? Because this is what we were explaining in 2015. We're explaining the numbers again, and we're hoping in 2023 we will not sit down like this to say what has gone wrong with the numbers. An
audit will help. It surely will, especially once we make those audits not just at the state level. We start auditing at the polling unit level, over 120,000 polling units. We need to, you know, they say the devil is in the details, or perhaps you might want to say the angel is in the details. So unless we start focusing on the details, unless we start taking the use of data more seriously, then we will still, and hopefully we don't have these discussions in another
4 years.
In another 4 years.
Okay. Or even at the next off-season election.
But what also will really happen? What will really happen is once data is available for the politicians, then it allows them to plan strategy better.
Do they plan?
Oh, they want to plan.
They want to. If you don't mind, let's see if Sean has something else to say as regards these numbers that have come in.
Sean is a man with big plans.
Big plans. The planning show.
Hello, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, guys. How's it been? What day in Lagos, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, quickly, if my friend here could join me again tonight, let's go through some of the exciting things. It does look like deja vu, because I again will take you back to history. History sometimes in statistics sometimes it helps. And so in 2015, this is how it looks like, if we can remember, how the states were won in 2015 presidential election. And if you look at it, it does look like it's repeating itself, except for where the APC won in Ondo State this time around. Ekiti State, PDP couldn't win that state. Won that state at the time, but APC won it this time around. And so some of these states have not been announced for now, but look at what has repeated itself, history perhaps has repeated itself in FCT, in Plateau State, in Taraba State, some of the states that have been announced, and which other state has been announced in the down south? Imo State, Abia State.
All the states in the southeast have been announced.
So all of them had gone to the PDP.
All gone to the PDP.
Now we're expecting...
and that's not surprising, Sean, because the incumbent has never won any state in the southeast. So that trend has repeated itself. So whatever happens, this is his 5th time contesting an election, and he leaves as a president that never won a state in the southeast.
And he will always tell you he has friends in the southeast, but those friendships perhaps have not been able to get him those kind of votes that he needs to win election in some of these states.
But he's not so worried, because even though he hasn't won a state in the southeast, his margins have improved. So in the southeast, in 2015, the APC had a defeat of over 2.4 million votes. This time around, his margin of defeat in the southeast is now being cut down to 1.2 million, and that really hurts the PDP.
This time around, when we talk about margin, take a look at this. 2015 again, look at what margin we had between these two main political parties. APC had over 15 million votes in the last. Muhammadu Buhari was a candidate, and Goodluck Jonathan was a candidate at the time in the PDP. So 12 million votes the party had. With 2 million votes already, the APC is leading with over 3 million votes.
The exact number, 3.4 million votes. However, the only good news the PDP have is that this same time in 2015, when the 27 states plus the FCT had been released, the APC was leading by 4.8 million votes. This time around, based on the results we see, we're looking at that margin that was 4.8 million votes in 2015. That is now down to 3.4 million votes. And a lot of emphasis will now be on those 5 states that we haven't seen from the south. Total number of PVCs from those 5 states, 9.3 million votes. So we are looking at, will the voter turnout in those states be high? Will it be low? Or exactly what will really go on in those states?
There's something that we will show our viewers wherever they may be watching tonight. We've done a breakdown of at least some of the top 5 states and how it looked like in 2015 plus what is looking like now. The registered amount of voters and the people who have collected their PVC plus the difference between some of these candidates that we're looking at. If you look at this, before we look into some of these areas, let's look at the talking points. Now, I guess you've been talking, I've heard the analysts on the verdict today talking about some of the results and what this all means, implication for our politics generally. So there are some interesting states that I decided to put up for our discussion on this side of the divide. So Ladi, Ijoma, and Nelta, if you take a look at Benue State, what is interesting in Benue State, who won it in 2015? APC won it.
APC won it.
But this time around, it gone to the PDP. What about the legislative election? PDP has won all the senatorial seats, and PDP also won the presidential contest. It tells something that the man who is at the end of affairs, when he said he wanted to leave the APC, perhaps he was very confident of his political mileage that he has garnered in that state, and which he has shown by defeating the APC in that state, winning the presidential contest and also the senatorial seat. And this time around, it's not leaving any stone unturned to ensure that he got hold of that state.
So what will make this really more interesting is to look at what will happen on March 9th when we look at the governorship elections in Benue State. That will really be interesting to look at if the PDP governor will still be able to hold on to his seats.
Ladi, you know that one of the strongest senators from the APC in the North Central region lost to a member of the House of Representatives, Honorable KJF, who contested in the senatorial seat. Senator George Akume has lost to a former House of Reps member, a sitting House of Reps member, leaving APC without any senatorial seat in Benue State at the moment.
You're right, Sean, but more than who becomes the next senator or the House of Reps, what Nigerians are really talking about is just do a good damn job when you get in.
Absolutely. So if you guys would take a look at another talking point here, it's in Ekiti State. It does look like it was 100% performance for the APC. It does look like Benue State and Samuel Otom and his team did a very good job in Benue State. It does look like Fayemi also had done a very good job here. Now, what he has done and his team is that they cleared all the legislative states, including the House of Representatives and the Senate, and they've won since 2015. They've won for the first time for the APC, the presidential election.
Now, remember in Ekiti State, going into the election, all the senators in Ekiti State, the 3 senators were from the PDP.
Absolutely. And so one thing that is interesting also, perhaps, the upset that we have seen is that one of the highest ranking senators or the leaders of the PDP, the opposition in the National Assembly, in the Senate, has lost the seat to a friend who left the PDP, who wanted to be governor, who left the PDP and moved on to the APC. She lost Senator Biono Lujimi, a former deputy governor, has lost that seat to Mr. Dayo Adeyeye. Now, you remember also a former House of Representatives member, Bamidele, has also won the senatorial seat in Ekiti State. Now, all the House of Representatives seats had gone to the APC.
But the happiest man in Nigeria today about Ekiti will be the incumbent President Buhari, and that's because going into this election, there were 15 states that he had never won. Ekiti State was one of those states, and this time around, we see Ekiti State providing him victory. So clearly, there are now other states that we'll look at in terms of the other states that traditionally he normally wouldn't win, and we're seeing him winning in some of those states. One of those states, again, is Nasarawa State. Prior to now, he had never won in Nasarawa State, just like in Ekiti. So we've seen a bit of change. Ekiti State, he had never won. We see the result from Ekiti State, he wins. Nasarawa State, he had never won. We've seen the result from Nasarawa State. It was a victory for him.
So Ekiti State is a plus for the APC. Plateau, Ekiti State and Nasarawa State, those 2 states are a plus for the APC, a plus for the PDP, Benue State, because they've been able to take it away from the APC and giving the PDP. Now, look at another very interesting one here. That's Lagos State, where we are right now. All the senatorial seats, we have Senator Adeola Olamilekan, who has won perhaps the largest senatorial district in the whole of Nigeria, is retained that seat. Another person who has retained that seat is the wife of the former governor, Oluremi Tinubu, who has also retained that seat. And now we have a former member or a sitting member of the House of Assembly who has also won the senatorial seat. So the APC has retained the senatorial seat in Lagos.
Again, the APC has retained the senatorial seats, but what the people now want the APC to do is to translate that victory to victory for the people, translate that victory to performance in the state. So what we're going to be looking at is Ekiti Lagos. If you look at the total votes, the margin of votes that the APC has gotten in this election, in the presidential election from the Southwest, 259,000 margin. That's the margin of the APC over the PDP right now. So what the party needs to do is to ensure that this vote and the victory here is not just the victory for those elected officials, but at the House of Reps, the Senate, and at the center, that the victory really is the victory for the people, and victory for the people shows in performance. Another person who has retained and is going to be serving a 5th time in the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, is retained as a Surulere 1 federal constituency. Gbajabiamila has retained that seat. That's going to be one of the most experienced lawmakers in Nigeria. The likes of David Mark, who served as Senate President twice, but he's not returning to the National Assembly. When we talk about this talking point, it will be interesting that we're not talking alone about the presidential election. We're looking at some of these National Assembly seats. So let's take a look at perhaps some of these interesting areas. So we look at this. This is Ekiti State. Mr. Bamidele, who is a former House of Reps member. Also, the same thing here in Osun State. Ajibola was a former commissioner, Bashir Ajibola, a former commissioner in Osun State, who was gone now into the Senate. Now, let's look at this. This is somewhat an upset, isn't it? A sitting governor was defeated by a member of the PDP. Out of the 3 senatorial districts in Oyo State, this is the only seat that APC has lost to the PDP. So I think what this really speaks to is the accuracy of the results, and that even though you are a sitting governor, it doesn't mean that you are guaranteed victory. So it clearly shows that if your constituency, or there's a particular constituency, a senatorial district that is not satisfied with your performance, there is a chance for an opposing candidate to win, to take that seat. And really, that's what it really speaks about. Rather than focusing on the candidate, we should focus on how the electoral body has made it possible that even a sitting governor can lose an election. That really speaks to transparency, and that speaks to credibility of our process.
May I just add that in this particular instance, the sitting governor you're making reference to has in fact already congratulated the victor.
Which a lot of people had applauded.
And I think that speaks also to the transparency and the credibility of the process, that if it wasn't credible or transparent, that wouldn't have been forthcoming, would it?
Yes, it wouldn't have.
Yeah, again, what does it tell you, Laddie, that the APC is a ruling party in Oyo State, but has lost the presidential election to the PDP?
So 2 states in the southwest that the APC has lost the presidential election, Oyo State and Ondo State. So it will be interesting. Now that we've seen all the states from the southwest, we've seen the results from all the states from the southwest, we've seen all the results from the southeast, we've seen all the results from the north central. We're now hoping that the results that will come out from the south-south will be right and will be accurate.
So Sean, what are the results telling you about new entrants? Remember, I'm always asking about that, so that we know, so that it doesn't look
one of the new entrants that will not be an entrant is the governor of Oyo State, who is not able to get in. We have some governors, and interesting, we'll go through some of the new entrants, upsets and surprises, isn't it?
Fantastic.
So this is one big one, isn't it? Laddie, did you see this coming? A sitting Senate president losing his seat to another medical doctor, Ibrahim Oloriegbe, also a medical doctor from around the same area. Their villages or their towns are not far from each other in Ilorin, and with 123,000. Not only that, Oloriegbe defeated Bukola Saraki, is the fact that all the National Assembly seats was taken by the APC, similar to what we saw in Ekiti State. Ekiti State and Kwara State are neighboring states. And interestingly, there seems to be one movement, one slogan that was very widely, that spread like wildfire, is the Otoge slogan. The PDP came with his Otoya slogan. So what does that mean in Yoruba? In English, Otoge means it's enough. Otoya means let's start, or let's start it again. Let's start it again. So it does mean that one slogan beats the other one. The Otoge slogan defeated Otoya on the political battlefield. But the implication is this: this man, who is perhaps seeking a 3rd term in the National Assembly, a 2-term governor of Kwara State, is not able to return. Oloriegbe defeating him.
So let's decode this properly. What this means is that we're going to have a new Senate president.
Absolutely.
Clearly, we're going to have a new Senate president. And we're hoping that this time around, that the challenges that we faced in getting a Senate president for the 8th Assembly, we wouldn't face those challenges in the 9th Assembly, because those challenges really also influenced how the economy performed over the last 3 years, 9 months.
Okay. Another one that will be interesting is this. Ejoma.
Yeah, sure.
What do you make of this? You were talking about new entrants, and a lot of people have said it does look like the red chambers have become the retiring ground for some of the governors who have spent 2 terms. So Okorocha of the APC in Imo State is looking to have his political career continued in the National Assembly, especially in the Senate. So if you look at what has happened, he ran against a lot of people, but one man a lot of people thought that will give him a fight, a run for his money, is Osita Ezunaso. He's not a stranger to Osita Ezunaso. Osita Ezunaso was a former organizing secretary of the APC before he defected to APGA. Now, Okorocha came out as the winner in that race based on what INEC has announced in that set. So he came out with 97,000, and his running mate, look at what margin they got. Close, isn't it?
Quite close, but the challenge with Imo State is we're not too sure who the people are voting for. Are they voting for the candidates, or are they voting for the party? And I think that will be answered when we look at the results of the governorship elections in Imo State, because there are several factions in Imo State, ABGA, APC, PDP, several top candidates as well. So the real questions citizens are asking is that, are they voting for the party or are they voting for the candidate?
That's a big question, isn't it? Ladi Ejamanota, if you look at what is happening, or what played out in Imo State, is that Okorocha won as an APC candidate, but his party lost at the presidential election. So it does then mean that in Oyo State, Ajimabi lost, but then his party also lost.
But again, it speaks to that citizens are differentiating really between...
Okay, Shehu, you will tell us all about the machinations there in Imo, but let's go over to Abuja and see where the INEC chairman is with his list of parties and list of states. Let's go there.